And why is that? Why did he prefer going past the open door of the idol worship? The Nachis Yitzrei. Because the Gemara tells us in Maseches and Hedge, when the Anshe Knesset Gdola prayed that the Yetzer Hara would no longer be powerful with regard to Avoda Zara, and we would not be tempted by paganism and the worship of idolatry. And therefore, you know what? We don't have to worry about passing through the door, let's say, passing by the door of a church, let's say, on a Sunday morning. So the one said to him, you know what, we're better off that way. Why don't we expose ourselves to the very powerful Yetzer Hara, seeing all these beautiful girls, and by overcoming the Yetzer Hara, we'll certainly receive a great reward. And the truth is that every morning we say to Hashem, Al Tavienu L'Nisayon. We don't want to expose ourselves. We want to be like the Nazir who goes around the vineyard. Kimoto Hasam. When they got close, apparently they accepted the view of the second of these two Amorim that, you know what, let's go past the brothel. Is Chazina Lazonos is Kanu Umikame. And they saw that the Zonos ran away from them. In other words, they realized that these were holy men and they didn't want to tempt them. So the one who suggested that we go past the Avodah Zarah, he says to him, how did you know that, we'd be able to overcome the temptation of going past an open door of a brothel? So now we're studying a pasuk in Mishlei. She shall watch over you from lewdness. Understanding will guide you. And I guess understanding here means the study of Torah. The fact that we have dedicated ourselves to the study of Torah, that's going to provide a powerful protection for us over the Yetzer Hara of lewdness. Amru le Rabbana l'Rava. My mezima. What does the pasuk open up? Which says mezima. I shall watch over you. Ilema Torah. If it means she is referring to Torah is going to watch over you. The ksiv zima. And we have a pasuk that says zima. Not sure where this pasuk is. Anyway, metagami and atzas chatoim, a council of sin. The Torah says in Vayikra Perek Ches Zimahi, and it's a reference to atzas chatoim, council of sin. Uksiv hifli etza higdil to Shia. And the pasuk in Yeshayahu Hanavi says that wondrous is his counsel, which is a reference to the Torah, or how great is his wisdom, a reference to the Torah, and that's going to protect us from Zima. Ihachi, if that be so, Zima mi boile. But what's the Gemara's kasha now? Zima mi boile. It should have said Zima. So, it says Mizima. Just 1 second. I'm going to look here in the Torah Or for a second. Here it is. The first one in the Torah Or says Mizima Tishmar Alecha. Mizima means from Zima. And you're telling me that Zima is the Torah, that's going to protect you. Here it's Mizima. Hachi Kamar. Midvar Zima Tishmar Alecha Torah HaNitzrechos. Torah will watch over you, protect you from matters of Zima. Now we start the sugya of Asar Ruge Malchus, and specifically the sugya of Rab Chanina ben Tradion, who was put to death by fire. Rab Chanina ben Tradion. Rab Loza thinks that Rav Chanina is in better shape than him. He has a greater chance of being protected by the divine being in the judgment of the Romans. Ashrecha, you're in better shape than me. You publicly taught Torah, and that was your problem. But I was caught by the authorities for 5 violations. Let me just see if he has them listed here. Just 1 second. Oh, we'll have to wait till the rest of the sugya. Omelo Reb Chanina. So Reb Chanina says, Punk fakert. You're in better shape than me, Rabbi Elazar ben Parto. Ashrecha shenitfasta al chamisha dvar v'ata nitzel, you'll be saved. For oily woe to me shenitfasti al dorecha ve'eni nitzel. Now, somehow, Rabbi Chanina already knew that he was going to be executed by the Romans, and probably he knew this from Rabbi Yossi. The Gemara is going to say later on that when Rabbi Yossi took ill, Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion visited Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi told him that he's going to be executed. What is going to protect you, Rabbi Elazar ben Prata, from a judgment, a verdict of execution? It's the fact that you dedicate yourself not just to Torah, but also to Chesed. Whereas I, says Rabbi Chanina ben Tadron, I dedicated myself exclusively to Torah studies, Ukid Rav Huna, and this supports the statement of Rav Huna. Tiyomar Rav Huna said, "Kolosik v'Torah bilvat." Don't make a bishain lo Eloha. Pill of a sentence here. Now, a person thinks that all, dedicate himself exclusively to Torah. Shedemar v'yomim rabim l'Yisrael lo leheyemes. My lo leheyemes shekol osik v'Torah bilvat. Don't believe me bishain elka. U'mis chasodim lo osik. Rabbi Chanina is a famous story where he was in charge of collecting the tzedakah money, and he was in charge of collecting Purim geld. And once it got mixed up, and he took out of his pocket to pay the aniyim on Purim. Tanya Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov lo yitein adam ha'os v'lanik yishal tzedakah ela im kein memuna leh talmid chacham ki Rabbi Chanina ben Trajon. Right? You give your money to a community chest and you rely on the gabbai who's in charge of the community chest to divvy up the money. Don't. Unless the gabbai is so trustworthy that he's on the level of Chanina ben Trajan. And Hemnuni hu davi mehemnin. Maybe, okay, you could trust him, but never lo avad. But we never had him performing an act of chesed. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov was only using Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan as a paradigm of someone who's trustworthy. So the Gemara answers us, Hanya, we have a brisa. Omar lo, Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan said, we'll see later on to Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma is going to ask him, did you ever do anything for the benefit of the public, any chesed? And the response of Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan is following story, Moshel Prunis Chafuli Moshel Tztaka, V'chilatim lanim, I dug into my own pocket to replace the Purim gelt that was given for the Sudas Purim of the Yaniyim. And we see that Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan was involved in tzedakah. So why do you tell me that he wasn't involved in Gebilas Chasadim? So the Gemara Mevad Avad, but Kidaboyle lo Avad. He did perform acts of chesed and kindness, but he didn't reach the level that he should have. It was inadequate. And it's very interesting that the Gemara later on is going to assume that the quote-unquote inadequacy of Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan was because he used the Shem Hamaforosh. Anyway, Asyul Rabbi Elazar ben Parta, the Romans brought Rabbi Elazar ben Parta up for trial via Omru, Ma tam tanisa, ma tam ganavta. Why did you study Torah, which is against our law? Why do you steal? Omole, Safi, you're contradicting yourself. You can't tell me that I dedicated myself to the Torah, and at the same time, I occupied myself with stealing. I'm a no good bandit. It can't be both. So he argued for himself, and apparently the Romans accepted his argument that it can't be that he's guilty of both. So therefore, if he's not guilty of one thing that you accused him of, then let him off the hook. He's not accused of the second. My time a correlate Rebbe. So the Romans asked him, so why do they call you Rebbe? If
Right.
you're telling me that our accusation that you taught Torah is not a true accusation, and the answer is they call me Rebbe because I'm the Rabbon Shel Tarsi. Right? The weavers had to know exactly what's the wharf and the roof and the this, and I'm the teacher, the master of all the weavers. Ha! They laughed at him. Isule Trey Kibure. They brought in front of him two reels of thread. Amrule. Hi the Shasya, Vahai the Irva. Right? Which is the warp and which is the roof, the woof. I know, to me, it seems like he had a 50% chance of getting it right. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's Rakesh Nisa, and a miracle happened in Rabbi Loza, who was never a weaver in his life. He didn't know the first thing about the parts of a loom. And Isa Zibura v'Yosiv al Shasya. So he got a message from Shemayim, and he unraveled the secret of that message. A female bee sat on the warp. A warp is the part that it receives the woof. And the Isis Ibura and a male bee came v'Yosef al to Ivra. So he knew to distinguish which is the warp and which is the roof. Woof. Amr lahu. So he says to the Romans, "Hi the Shasya, hi the Arba." What about the claim that you didn't come to join us in Beis Havila was our idol worship? You say I was an alter mensch, I was too old. They had such a levitic time there, celebrating their idol worship, celebration that I'm afraid that they were trampled. Amru, the Romans said, Tell me how many people died by trampling until this day. Nobody died. What are you telling us? A whole. And the answer is, on that very day, somebody was trampled to death. That was the miracle. Now, this is a difficult part of the Gemara. The Gemara says the Romans said to him, why did you free your slave, your Canaanite slave? Now, the truth is that they were right. You're not allowed to free your Canaanite slave except under very
Right.
strict conditions. Right? Shachar Eved Canaan. But they didn't know that. So they accused him of doing it l'shem mitzvah, apparently. He says, inasmuch as the Romans had prohibited mitzvah observance, they had evidence that Rabbi Loza freed his slave by following biblical procedure. Now, the truth is that biblical procedure is not a mitzvah, but they didn't know the difference. They thought, this bill that he created to, a shtashuchu that he gave to his Eved, that was a fulfillment of the mitzvah. How come you fulfilled that mitzvah? The whole story is a bluff. So somebody got up to testify that he was witness to the fact that Rab Loza was guilty of this freeing his slave with all the contracts and everything else. But Elio came in Bechad Kechad Michashuvi de Malchusa. He appeared as one of the important officials of the Roman government. Later on at Daf Yud Ches, we're going to see he appears Elio as a female prostitute. So he takes on many different guises. He says to the witness, Midisrachish le nisa bekulu. You know what? All the other charges against Rabbi Elazar, he got freed from them through a miracle. And now also, in connection with this charge that he freed there's going to be a miracle. And then, when the miracle happens, I'm warning you, Mr. Witness, everybody's going to realize and appreciate that you're a wicked person. So the Romans doesn't pay any attention. He comes to testify against Rabbi Elazar. And immediately when he got up to give testimony, a communication came from one of the important officials up on high from the Roman government, send this guy to the emperor's palace in Rome, the Shadur. And they sent him. Aideahu Gavra, this person who wanted to testify against Rabbi Elazar was sent as an agent. Eliyahu came traveling on the road, and Paske Arba Mios Parse. He chucked him 400 parsos. Azul v'lo asel. He never came back. Asiru Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan. Amalei Amai Kasakta be'orai. So now it's the turn of Rabbi Chanina. Why did you engage in Torah study? I was commanded by the Lord, my God, to do this. I'm fulfilling what it says in Dvarim in Perek Dalet. Miad goes of the Sreifa. The Gemara is going to ask, why was his wife sentenced to death? And why was his daughter sent to dwell in a tent of prostitutes? All of this Sreifa, Shehoya Hoge Hashem v'Osiosa. So here we're going to have a sugya for the next daf about the 42, the name of God that has 42 letters called the Shem HaMeforash, and Rabbi Elazar ben Tradian was guilty of enunciating that name of God, which you're not allowed to do. Is a very severe violation, and he did it publicly, and he did it so that whatever he wished would come true. Heichi Ovid Hachi, the Gemara is going to ask how and why did he do such a thing, and that's going to be for the next time. Okay, then. So we should agree.
Okay, Shkoyach. Thank you for starting
please
early.
send my condolences to Gerald.
Yeah, and then I will.
I think he'll remember me. I think.
Yeah, for sure.